It is past midnight. The room is quiet, but your mind is not. You open a drawer and find an old notebook beneath receipts, forgotten cables, and papers you once believed were important. You turn through the pages until you see it, a goal written in your own handwriting. Maybe it was the business you promised to build, the career you planned to leave, the book you wanted to write, the income you hoped would free your family from constant worry. You remember the person who wrote those words. That person believed something was about to begin. But years have passed. The ink has faded. The page has aged. And the life outside that notebook looks almost the same. This is one of the quietest forms of pain. Not losing a dream in one dramatic moment, but watching it remain alive inside you while your days continue without it. You tell yourself there were reasons. You did not have enough money. You did not have enough time. You did not meet the right person or receive the right opportunity. Some of those reasons may be real. Circumstances matter. Responsibility is real. Life does not give everyone the same starting point. But a more uncomfortable question remains. If this goal has lived in your mind for so many years, why has it never gained enough power to reorganize your life? In 1937, Napoleon Hill published Think and Grow Rich. The title has led many people to treat it as a book about money alone. Yet Hill did not begin with investments, financial formulas, or business tactics. He began with desire, not talent, not luck, desire, and yet almost everyone desires something better. Millions want freedom, meaningful work, security, recognition, peace, and the ability to care for the people they love. Wanting is common. Transformation is rare. So desire alone cannot be the answer. This is not a story about wishing harder. This is not a promise that thoughts magically become money. This is a story about the moment a desire stops behaving like a preference and begins behaving like a command. Because there is a difference between wanting a new life and becoming unwilling to continue living the old one. There is a difference between thinking about a goal when you feel inspired and building your decisions around it when inspiration disappears. And there is a difference between a dream that comforts you at night and a purpose that wakes you in the morning. Look again at that old page. The words may still be honest. The dream may still matter. But perhaps the real question is not whether you want it badly enough. Perhaps the question is this: what separates a passing wish from a desire powerful enough to reorganize an entire life? We will return to that page. But first, you need to see why so many dreams remain trapped there. Most people do not fail because they have no dream. They fail because the dream never becomes a decision. At first, the difference seems small. A wish says, I would like this. A decision says, my life will now begin to move in this direction. One creates emotion. The other creates structure. You may already know what you want. You may have known for years. But knowing is not the same as choosing, and choosing is not the same as committing. The mind is skilled at hiding this difference. It can make hesitation look like wisdom. It can make fear look like patience. It can make endless preparation look like progress. Picture a 34-year-old engineer named Daniel. Daniel has an idea for a product that could solve a real problem in his industry. For 4 years, he studies, revises, and prepares. His folders grow thicker, but he never speaks to a customer and never tests a simple version. Daniel looks disciplined. In truth, he is using preparation as protection. Here's the part most people miss. Preparation can be an act of courage. It can also become a hiding place. As long as the dream stays private, it stays perfect. No one can reject it, and no failure can expose the distance between imagination and ability. So you tell yourself you are waiting for confidence. But confidence often comes after action. You make one call. You show the unfinished work. You survive the discomfort. Then the mind receives evidence that you are no longer someone who only thinks about beginning. You are someone who has begun. Readiness is not a door that opens by itself. There will always be another uncertainty, another weakness, another reason to wait. If you demand complete confidence before taking the first step, you may spend your life standing beside a road that can only be understood by walking it. The ancient Greeks had a word connected to deliberate choice, prohairesis. It is often associated with the Stoic philosopher Epictetus, who placed great weight on the part of life that remains yours to govern. Your judgment, your choice, your response. You cannot control when the perfect opportunity appears. You cannot control whether another person recognizes your value. You cannot control the economy, the competition, the timing, or the accidents that interrupt a plan. But you can decide what you will do while the outcome remains uncertain. That is where power begins, not in controlling the future, in refusing to let uncertainty control your present. Yet there is another trap. Sometimes you do act. You launch the product, apply for the position, or begin the project. Then the first attempt fails. No one buys, no one responds. The plan that looked convincing in your mind collapses when it meets the world. Many people then confuse the failure of a method with the failure of a purpose. They do not say, "This plan failed." They say, "I failed." But a plan is not sacred. It is a tool. If the tool does not work, you change it. You gather better information, correct the design, and try again with sharper judgment. Persistence does not mean repeating the same mistake forever. It means refusing to treat the first obstacle as a final verdict. A failed plan may reveal poor timing, missing skill, a weak offer, or a false assumption. None of those automatically prove that the purpose must be abandoned. There is another reason desires remain weak. Too many exits. You want to build something meaningful, but only if it does not cost comfort. You want the reward, but also protection from embarrassment, rejection, sacrifice, and uncertainty. So you commit halfway. You work when inspired, then retreat when the work becomes inconvenient. You call it flexibility. Sometimes flexibility is fear wearing intelligent language. The Greek word telos refers to an end, a purpose, a destination toward which action is directed. Without a telos, your energy scatters. Messages control your morning. Interruptions control your afternoon. Other people's urgency becomes your schedule. But when a purpose becomes clear, you begin asking different questions. Does this use of time move me closer? Does this habit strengthen me or weaken me? Does this opportunity serve the goal or only look like progress? Clarity does not remove difficulty. It removes some confusion. Now here is where it gets uncomfortable. You may not be stuck because you lack talent. You may be stuck because you have never made the decision that would force your habits to change. A preference survives while conditions are pleasant. A decision continues when the mood disappears. A preference says, "I will work when I have time." A decision puts the work on the calendar. If nothing in your schedule changes, nothing has been decided. If the dream disappears every time fear speaks, then fear is still making the decisions. Before we go further, take a moment and name the goal you have postponed the longest. Not the safest goal, not the one that sounds impressive, the one that still returns when the room becomes quiet. Write it in the comments as one clear sentence. And if you value deeper conversations about psychology, philosophy, and personal growth without empty motivation, subscribe to the channel. Because writing a goal down is only the beginning. A page has no power until the words on it begin to change the way you live. This is where desire must become specific. Many people say they want success, wealth, freedom, or meaningful work. But the mind cannot organize itself around a fog. "I want more money" does not tell you what to do this morning. "I want a better life" does not tell you which skill to learn, which sacrifice to make, or which opportunity to refuse. A definite purpose can. It gives your attention somewhere to return and your decisions a standard. The goal does not need to be perfect. It needs to be clear enough to influence behavior. You must know what you are trying to create, why it matters, and what value you are willing to produce in exchange. That last part matters. Achievement is not created by desire alone. It is created when desire joins service, skill, discipline, and action. You do not create wealth by repeating that you want it. You become capable of creating wealth by solving problems, meeting needs, and improving when the first attempt brings little reward. Then comes belief. Napoleon Hill used the word faith. It can sound mystical, as though belief itself commands the outside world. But belief has a more immediate power. It changes what you are willing to do. Psychologist Albert Bandura later used the term self-efficacy for the belief that you can perform the actions required in a situation. That belief affects whether you begin, how much effort you invest, and how long you continue after disappointment. Two people can face the same obstacle and see different messages. One sees proof that the goal is impossible. The other sees information about what must be learned next. But it runs deeper than that. You do not need to believe in the entire future. Sometimes you only need enough belief to perform the next action. You may not know whether your business will succeed, but you can believe you are capable of making one honest offer. You may not feel like the person who can reach the final goal, but you can become that person through evidence. Every kept promise creates evidence. Every difficult task completed without applause creates evidence. Every rejection you survive creates evidence. Confidence is not always the cause of action. Often, it is the result. According to the account Napoleon Hill presents, Edwin C. Barnes arrived in Orange, New Jersey with a clear ambition. He did not merely want a job with Thomas Edison. He wanted to become Edison's business associate. Barnes had little money and no powerful title. He began with ordinary work, in a position that did not resemble his ambition. This is where many people lose themselves. They allow a temporary position to define a permanent identity. Barnes did something different in Hill's telling. He accepted the work in front of him without surrendering the purpose behind it. When an opportunity later appeared to sell one of Edison's machines, Barnes recognized it because his mind had been prepared by a definite aim. Opportunity did not arrive wearing a sign. It arrived as a problem that needed someone willing to take responsibility. That is often how opportunity enters your life. Not as a reward, but as work. Not as certainty, but as a test. Not as the position you imagined, but as a small opening that most people overlook. A definite purpose helps you recognize an opening, but recognition is not enough. You must act in an organized way. A goal says, I will build a business. An organized action says, on Monday at 7 in the evening, I will speak with 3 potential customers and ask what problem they most want solved. The first sentence describes a future. The second changes a calendar. Psychologists call this an implementation intention, a plan that connects an action to a specific time or situation. When 7 o'clock arrives, you act. When breakfast ends, you write. When a customer rejects the offer, you record what you learned before contacting the next person. The goal gives you direction. The plan gives that direction a place in time. Ask yourself 3 questions. What exactly do you want? What value will you create in return? What will you do within the next 24 hours that proves this goal is more than a sentence? A goal without immediate action remains safely separated from reality. The first action breaks that separation. Then, resistance arrives. Hill tells the story of R.U. Darby, who joined his uncle in searching for gold. They found traces, raised money for equipment, and began drilling. Then the vein disappeared. They became discouraged, sold the machinery, and walked away. The person who bought it consulted a mining engineer. The engineer studied the fault lines and concluded that the gold was likely only a short distance from where Darby had stopped. The drilling resumed. The gold was found. This story is often reduced to 2 words: never quit. But that is incomplete. The person who succeeded did not merely continue the same work. He sought specialized knowledge and corrected the method. That is the deeper lesson. When a plan fails, ask what kind of failure occurred. Did the goal fail? Or the method? Was the timing wrong? Did you lack skill? Did you act on a false assumption? Persistence without thought becomes stubbornness. Thought without persistence becomes hesitation. You need both. The Latin word conatus refers to a force of striving, the tendency of a living being to continue and preserve itself. Real desire has something similar within it. It does not always feel dramatic. Sometimes it is the quiet decision to return after a difficult day. Open the document again. Make another call. Build a new version. Admit the first idea was wrong without deciding that your future is hopeless. This is the discipline hidden beneath achievement. Not endless excitement, not permanent certainty. Return, correction, return again. Desire creates a definite aim. The aim creates decisions. Decisions enter the calendar. Action creates evidence. Failure creates information. Persistence turns that information into another attempt. One decision at a time. Now return to the room from the beginning. It is still late. The old notebook is still open in front of you. The goal is still written on the page, surrounded by years of silence. But now you are asking a different question. At first you asked, why has this not happened yet? You looked for an answer in the outside world. Not enough time, not enough money, not enough support, not enough opportunity. Some of those obstacles may be real. A clear purpose does not erase debt, illness, family responsibility, economic hardship, or bad timing. But the deeper question is no longer about what the world failed to give you. It is this. If this goal truly became a decision, what would have to change in the life you are living now? That is where a wish becomes dangerous. A wish asks nothing from today. It can survive for years without disturbing your habits. It can live quietly in a notebook while you continue waking at the same time, making the same choices, avoiding the same risks, and surrendering your attention to the same distractions. A decision cannot remain that polite. It begins to interfere. It changes what you do after work. It changes what you study. It changes what you spend. It changes which invitations you accept and which comforts you refuse. It changes the people you seek out, the questions you ask, and the amount of rejection you are willing to endure. The goal on the page may remain exactly the same, but once it begins changing your behavior, it is no longer merely an idea. It has entered your life. This resolves the question we carried from the beginning. What separates a passing wish from a desire powerful enough to reorganize an entire life? Not the intensity of the emotion, not how often you imagine the reward, not how loudly you say that you want it. The difference is the number of decisions you are willing to build around it. A powerful desire begins governing your present before it rewards your future. It determines when you begin. It determines what you practice. It determines what you are willing to repeat badly until you can do it well. It determines whether failure becomes a verdict or information. It determines whether fear receives a voice or a vote. Notice what just happened. The goal did not become more real because the words changed. It became more real because the person reading those words changed. This is where Hill's language meets a modern understanding of behavior. Hill wrote about desire, faith, decision, organized planning, and persistence. Psychology now speaks of goal specificity, implementation intentions, self-efficacy, feedback, and adjustment. The language is different, but the meeting point is clear. A goal begins to shape your future only when it starts governing your present behavior. A specific goal tells your attention what to notice. A plan tied to a time and place reduces the need to negotiate with yourself. Belief in your ability to perform the next action makes effort more likely. Action produces feedback. Feedback corrects the plan. Repeated attempts create evidence that you are capable of becoming more than your present circumstances suggest. There is nothing magical about this, but there is something powerful. Your mind learns from what you repeatedly do. If you keep breaking promises to yourself, your mind learns that your intentions have little authority. If you keep postponing difficult action, it learns that discomfort is a command to retreat. But when you begin keeping small promises, something changes. You say you will work for 30 minutes, and you do. You say you will make the call, and you make it. You say you will finish the first version, and you finish it. The action may look small from the outside. Inside you, it is evidence. This does not guarantee wealth. No book can guarantee that. Thought cannot control every market, employer, illness, accident, or person whose decision affects your life. You can act wisely and still fail. But lack of control over the final result does not mean you have no influence over the probability. You can become clearer, more skilled, more consistent, and more useful. You can remain in the process long enough to receive information that a person who quits early will never see. That is not absolute control, it is responsibility. So look again at the goal on the page. Do not ask whether it still inspires you. Inspiration changes with sleep, stress, weather, and disappointment. Ask whether it is worthy of structure. Is it worthy of a place on your calendar? Is it worthy of learning a difficult skill? Is it worthy of hearing no? If the answer is no, release it honestly. Not every old dream deserves the rest of your life. But if the answer is yes, stop asking the goal to keep you emotionally excited. Give it a job. Take a sheet of paper or open a note on your phone. Write one goal, not five. 1. Write the exact result you want. Write why it matters enough to endure difficulty. Write what value you must create in return. Write one action you will complete within the next 24 hours. Then write one behavior you will reduce to make space for it. Call a potential customer. Send the application. Build the rough version. Ask for guidance. Study the technical problem. Set aside the first amount of money. The action does not need to be dramatic. It needs to be real. Save this video and return in 30 days. Do not ask whether you still feel motivated. Ask whether the goal has entered your schedule. Ask whether it has influenced your choices. Ask whether the person reading the page has begun to change. You do not need to announce your faith. You only need to act in the way a person with faith would act. Quietly, deliberately, again tomorrow. Before you close the book, remember 3 lessons. First, desire becomes powerful only when it is given structure. A wish can remain alive for years without creating a result. It becomes something more when you define the outcome, decide what value you will create, build a plan, and continue after the first plan fails. Thought does not replace action. Thought gives action a direction. Second, you do not need to see the entire road before you begin. You need to see the next honest step. Perhaps you are waiting for confidence or certainty. Perhaps you believe one more month of preparation will remove the fear. It will not. Send the message. Build the rough version. Ask the question. Make the offer. Study the skill that your next level demands. Your first action does not need to prove that you will succeed. It only needs to prove that you are no longer standing still. The plan may change. The deadline may move. The goal itself may need to be reshaped. That is not defeat. That is contact with reality. Third, the deepest cost is not always failure. It is delay without decision. It is reaching the end of another year and finding the same goal written on another page. Failure can teach you. Rejection can redirect you. An imperfect attempt can show you what private thinking cannot. But a dream that is never tested teaches you nothing. It only grows heavier. So ask yourself one final question. What is one goal you are finally willing to build your decisions around? Not a goal you would like to achieve someday. A goal worthy of your time, attention, discipline, and repeated effort. Write it in one clear sentence. Then let your next action become the first piece of evidence. You may not control when opportunity arrives, who supports you, or how many times the plan must change. But you can decide whether your desire remains a private wish or becomes a force expressed through your daily life. Your future does not begin when the opportunity arrives. It begins when your desire is no longer asking for permission.